A hiker in New Hampshire is recovering from a flesh-eating bacteria. He spent 2 weeks in a coma back home in Miami, but doctors say he contracted the bacteria through blisters on his feet while hiking in New Hampshire. Doctors were able to stop the bacteria with antibiotics, and he's home now on the mend. But the story, of course, raised a lot of questions for us. So Dr. Megan May joins us. She's an associate professor for the University of New England and an infectious disease specialist. So we'll start with New Hampshire because we hear something like that and it's kind of scary.
Of course, everybody thinks there's something terribly just threatening that's right next door. But the reality is this hiker was infected with an organism called Streptococcus pyogenes. Sometimes you hear it called group A strep. It's actually the organism that causes strep throat. So it's everywhere. It's this organism that you find anywhere you find human beings. So even though this case happened and has a connection to New Hampshire's at no elevated risk relative to anywhere else. It's just that we become alarmed because they're our neighbors, they're right next door. The New Hampshire connection is just that this guy happened to be hiking there, happened to get blisters which became open wounds that then became infected with this organism that he could have picked up anywhere.
Okay, so it's not necessarily, was it living in him that created this, or was it that he stepped on something with the blisters? Or
it's actually kind of difficult to tell. About 25% of completely healthy humans have this organism living on their skin or in their throat or in their nose. So it is entirely possible that it was already living in him and it happened to get into his wound where it caused this really dramatic presentation, or he could have picked it up from any surface, anything like that. So it really was probably a very benign set of circumstances that led him to become infected, but he just happened to have this very, very dramatic presentation.
I think the scary thing at this point is, you know, can I just cut a finger on something and suddenly have a flesh-eating bacteria?
So it actually is, it can be that simple. Anytime you have an open wound where you have an opening all the way down to the dermal tissue, the tissue right under your top layer of skin, there's potential for that to become infected. And the organisms that typically cause flesh-eating diseases, they are found pretty much all over. And so it's something that we think of as quite rare, but it can happen in some very simple and very ordinary circumstances.
Anything you can do to prevent it?
Absolutely. So anytime you have an open wound, you want to clean it right away. You want to keep it clean with triple antibiotic ointment, the kind you can just buy at any pharmacy, and you want to keep it covered. Keeping it covered is huge. And you need to keep it covered not only when it's actively bleeding, but until it closes up all the way.
Okay.
So that's the best prevention you can do.
All right, Dr. May, thanks so much for coming in.
Anytime.